for being here. I'm glad you enjoyed the waiting room and hopefully a little bit of that music. You got your dance on this afternoon. If I haven't met you before, my name is Tara Jackson. I'm president of the Arizona Town Hall. And welcome to our program that's one in a series called Cross-Border Connecting, part of an effort that started with a statewide town hall several years ago to continue the impact of what happens when we connect Arizonans and Mexicans, our neighbors to the south, helping to build those business and cultural relationships. In this past year, we've done it virtually. It's been a really wonderful way to continue the connection, the conversation, the sharing, and the business opportunities that come with that. Today, we have a wonderful program about the impact of tourism in Arizona and Sonora, a great panel. I can't wait to hear what they say about this topic. Before we get started, I want to first give a shout out to our sponsors who helped make this series happen. And in particular, the sponsors for this series include the law firm of Jennings Strauss, the Nelson Family Charitable Fund, and Visit Tucson. So thanks again so much for allowing this important conversation to take place. We have two people who are very important as part of this program, in addition to the panel that you will meet in just a moment. The first one is one you won't hear much from today, but she probably has one of the more challenging roles, and that is Linda Elliott Nelson, who is not only a member of the Arizona Town Hall Board, but who attends these programs and helps draft a summary report for all those who can't attend. This report is then published on our website, provided to media outlets and anyone else who's interested. So Linda, thanks so much for again lending your hand in summarizing the discussion that we have today. And now I would like to introduce the person who's really responsible for putting this program together, creating the panel, and who will be facilitating the conversation. She's been a big part of making this series of cross-border connecting so successful. She's also a member of the Arizona Town Hall Board, and her day job is Director of Mexico Initiatives for Visit Tucson. So I would like to now turn over this program to my friend Marisol Vindiola. Marisol?
Thank you, Tara, for your kind introduction. Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos todos. Today, I will be facilitating this panel, and I'm so glad to welcome key players of the tourism industry from the state of Arizona and Sonora that I had the opportunity to work with and that I admire the most. Before we start, I would like to go over a few items so you can know how to participate in today's event. Please feel free to raise your hand or your virtual hand that is available on this platform to ask questions or place your comment in the chat room. Also, this meeting will be recorded and it will be shared on our website and our Arizona Town Hall website afterwards. Before the formal introductions, let's start with an icebreaker question for our panelists. Based on your location, what are the favorite attractions and the mass that you recommend our audience to visit? And we're gonna start with you, Karin, Arizona, then Elsa and Phoenix, then Tucson, Felipe, and Sonora, Luis.
Okay, so thank you, Marisol. Favorite attractions, there's so many great places in Arizona to visit, but I guess my top three would be, of course, number one, the Grand Canyon, which is one of the most iconic assets, and it's right in our backyard. The Grand Canyon is one of the most visited tourist attractions in Arizona. It's breathtaking. It's considered one of the natural wonders of the world, and it's definitely a bucket list item. Second, I would say Sedona. It has, it's just a stunning destination to visit. The Red Rock formations, has great hotels and resorts, great place to visit with your family and friends. So it's definitely a must see. And third, I would have to say Horseshoe Bend. It's located in Page, and it's literally like a horseshoe shaped curve of the Colorado River. The river flows at the bottom of the canyon, and it creates like that perfect horseshoe shape. So the views are amazing. And if you haven't already visited any of these locations or one or the other, definitely definitely want to go take a look at these.
Thank you, Karin. And now we're gonna go with Elsa. Elsa, in Phoenix, what is your 3 favorite attractions that you recommend our audience to visit?
Answering that question was definitely a challenge. As Karin, I believe the region has a lot to offer. I, like many other visitors from Mexico, originally did not have an idea about where to visit around Phoenix. And let me tell you, this city is the state's capital and the 5th largest city in the United States, with more than 1.6 million residents. So my first discovery coming here is that you cannot get tired of exploring the Phoenix metropolitan area. This area includes more than 20 cities, towns, and 3 native nations. So there's something here for everyone. For example, the Hispanic community here is very present. Just in Phoenix, it comprises more than 40% of the population. So overall, I discovered that in this area, there's this warm hospitality that we value so much in Mexico. And if I could recommend a place to visit, I would encourage everyone to visit the Pueblo Grande Museum and Archaeological Park, located near the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. There you will learn about the Hohokam people, who were the first to reside in this otherwise desert area. I believe many of us in Mexico are not familiar with the native population in Arizona. And I think it's extremely important for us to know the shared history of the people that live and thrive in the Sonoran Desert. So for those who like sports, I would invite you to take a pick. We have the NASCAR Raceway, the Arizona Cardinals football team, the Diamondbacks baseball team, the Phoenix Suns basketball team, and there even is a hockey team, the Phoenix Coyotes. So yes, hockey in the middle of the desert. I mean, who knows, maybe you become a hockey fan while visiting Phoenix. And added to all that, there's the Arizona State University that brings a unique vibe to the region in the metropolitan area. So those are my recommendations.
Thank you, Elsa. And now we're gonna go with Felipe Garcia. Tucson, Felipe.
Okay, so here goes 3 recommendations. Number 1, and of course, I'm a trustee of the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, so I have to recommend you to visit the Desert Museum. But don't go only to see the museum. Take part of the activities and programs. If you can, later today, after we're done with this, check out, they have amazing programs. If you have the opportunity, register to go this month of June with Dr. Jesus Garcia, an individual that is just an amazing expert on the desert, and you'll be able to join him and venture in the desert and learn how the saguaro fruit is harvested. And it's just 2 days a year that this can happen with Dr. Garcia. Believe me, it's an amazing experience. So that's a great way not only to learn about our landscape and where we live, but it's an also great way to go and connect. And I want to do something, a parenthesis here, because we're talking about Arizona and Sonora and the relationship that we have. If you go to the Desert Museum, something that happened and the Board of Trustees did, and I think it's amazing, is they have 2 different kinds of rates when you enter the Desert Museum. Like many attractions, they have a resident rate and then a visitor rate. So the fee to pay as a resident includes the residents of the Sonoran Desert. So it's not only people from Tucson. So if you're from Sonora, you're part of the Sonoran Desert. So you qualify to enter paying the lower fee because you're considering a local here in Tucson. So that's my first recommendation. Number 2, go to Sabino Canyon and do a hike. Go out and venture. There's so many trails, but I recommend you to listen and hear the conversations of people taking a break. I see my friend Glenn Williamson from the Council of Canada here in Arizona, and just to listen to groups from Canada talking, and then professional athletes and amateur athletes that they're doing hikes, business people. It's just phenomenal, the being out in the nature, but still connecting with individuals. And my third recommendation is going to be, when you're downtown Tucson, go and get some pan dulce at La Estrella early in the morning. And I know Mr. Luna, next time, hopefully I'll see you in a restaurant or having pan dulce there. And then walk to El Tiradito. It's a little shrine in the downtown area, and it's just beautiful to go there, especially when there's candles lit. And it's amazing to be in the downtown of Tucson, walking in the old neighborhoods in El Barrio, and then looking at this amazing little place that is called Tiradito. So again, number 1, Desert Museum, class with Dr. Garcia. Number 2, go sightseeing and people seeing at Sabino Canyon. And number 3, check out El Tiradito in downtown Tucson.
Perfect. Thank you, Felipe. Unfortunately, we are not able to connect with Luis Alberto from the Sonora Office of Tourism. We're still waiting for him to connect. So we're going to start with the next question. The first question for our panelists is, what is the current situation of the economy? I'm sorry, you know what? I just went to the next step. Before anything, we're gonna ask our guest speakers to please introduce themselves with a short bio. Karin Jimenez, Vice President of Operation and Industry Relations at the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marisol. So yes, Karin Jimenez, VP of Operations and Industry Relations of the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, which is a nonprofit advocacy organization that has been around since 1939. The AZLTA is the voice of advocacy for Arizona's travel, tourism, sports, and hospitality industry, which is a vast industry comprised of nearly 1,200 Arizona hotels and resorts. We also advocate on behalf of our attractions, arts, Arizona sports teams, venues, our destination marketing organizations, our airlines, airports, and thousands of businesses. These are all small businesses that supply goods and services to the industry. I've been with AZLTA for almost 2 years now, and it's one of the best industries that I have ever come to know and be a part of. This industry is responsible for 361,000 direct and indirect jobs, which represents a very important role to our state's economic vitality. I'm fortunate to be a part of this today, and it's always great to see Arizona colleagues and also from Sonora here. And thank you for considering us, and look forward to talking to you about Arizona's hospitality with you all.
Thank you, Karin. And now we're gonna go with Elsa, Soto, Beljean, Policy Planner for Maricopa Association of Government.
Thank you, Marisol. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Elsa Maria Soto Garcia de Beljean, but you can just call me Elsa, Elsa Beljean. I am the policy planner too of the Maricopa Association of Governments, also known as MAG. I am a dual citizen of Mexico and the United States, and I'm originally from Mexicali, Baja California. And at MAG, I analyze data focused on economic policies and international trade. As a member of the Policy and Government Relations Division of MAG, I support regional projects and MAG's Economic Development Committee's initiatives with Mexico. I'm really proud that today we're being, our chair of the Economic Development Committee is here, Council Member David Luna, and also our Executive Director, Eric Anderson. And just as a side note, I have the honor of coordinating the meetings of the Arizona Mega Region Council. As you may know, it's a binational council of elected officials from Arizona and Sonora. And therefore you can imagine that I'm excited about our discussion today. Thank you, Marisol.
Thank you, Elsa. And now, Felipe, it's your turn. Felipe Garcia, Executive Vice President at Visit Tucson.
And again, it's great to see many of you, and hopefully we'll have a nice dialogue and conversation. My name is Felipe Garcia. I'm the Executive Vice President for Visit Tucson. We're the destination marketing organization for Tucson, and we work a lot with Southern Arizona as well in helping bring people here to our community to enjoy, of course, spend money here in Tucson and having a great economic impact to our community. Something about myself, again, on my bio, it's we've been working in a program with Mexico for many years. We established a program called Vamos a Tucson. And that's a very interesting program that is really targeting that Mexico visitor, not only promoting, marketing, and selling, but actually looking to the pace of once we get those visitors from Mexico coming here, how we make sure that they're having a great experience, that they're excited about coming to our destination, that they feel welcome here in Tucson. So that's something that we launched several years ago. I'm very happy to see. And just an additional comment about the work that I've been doing, we've been affiliated to a lot of gastronomy programs around the world, from UNESCO Creative Cities of Gastronomy. But one organization that we're part of that is called the Delis Network. This is a group of cities around the world that use gastronomy as economic development tool, and it's Belgium, Brussels, and we have Madrid, Montreal in Canada, Buenos Aires, Barcelona, some Lyon, France, amazing cities. And to me, what it's amazing is when we have our meetings of this network, and I talk to my peers from around the world, they're fascinated about how Arizona and Sonora are working together. They tell me about what they see in the news, what they hear in the news about the relationship between the US and Mexico, and they think that it's a very confrontational and maybe dysfunctional relationship. And the moment that I talk to them about how we collaborate and work together, they're completely blown away. So I'm always glad and I'm happy to see that many countries around the world, many cities are looking at the model that we have built in our region and how we can collaborate and work together with our peers south of the border. So again, really glad to be here and looking forward to hear from my peer panelists and the rest of you as well, trying to answer some questions in the chat box. And I think we'll have an opportunity later today as well to have a conversation.
Thank you, Felipe. So now we're gonna go to our first question for our panelists. And the question is, what is the current situation of the economy, jobs, and tax revenue in Arizona and Sonora due to the pandemic? We're gonna start with Karin and then Felipe and Elsa.
Yes. So the COVID-19 pandemic, as many of you know, has had a very devastating effect on our industry. I think it's very important to sort of set the table for today's conversation to provide you with some data. The data really shines a light on the importance of the sector and its role in our state's economic vitality. And what I've done is I've shared 2 slides with everyone through the chat. If you don't see them, I'll make sure that after today's presentation, you get copies of this. But I wanted to share something so that you have something to reference and just so everyone can understand, how we got here today and where we are and where we were in 2019 before all this disruption happened. So 2019 was a record year in travel and tourism in Arizona. We welcomed 46.8 million overnight visitors who spent $25.6 billion. The industry is responsible for over 360,000 direct and indirect jobs with an economic impact of $3.78 billion that is contributed in Arizona tax revenues. So 2019 was an absolute record year for us. So now I'm going to transition into, not a pretty picture, which is a slide I think that you can see here. This is the economic impact that particularly important to note is that the COVID-19 washed up onshore in Arizona in March, which is our peak season. It's our busiest season for welcoming visitors from around the world, that visit us for our beautiful weather, spring break, golf courses, spring training. And COVID, as I mentioned, washed up onshore. The impact of COVID preliminary numbers that we have for 2020 alone, as you can see here, is the industry lost $11.8 billion in travel spending, which represented a 46% loss. We lost 50% of our hospitality jobs and a little more than 75,000 fewer jobs were supported by visitor spending. This resulted in a reduction of $423.3 million in revenues generated to the state coffers. So again, I think it's just important to demonstrate the importance of this industry on our state's economic vitality and how much the tourism industry really contributes to the state. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, it was devastating for sure, Karin. And Felipe, what is the current situation for Tucson? Felipe, are you there?
Here we go. Sorry, I think it was muted by the system. So I think Karin gave us a very interesting information about just the massive loss of jobs, of economic impact. The first months of the pandemic, we saw business decrease about 80% in the state of Arizona and in the hospitality industry, and then it leveled off about 50%. So here in Southern Arizona, in Tucson, we lost over $1 billion actually of economic impact from tourism. So it was very, it was felt. It was we were going through a transition when, rather than going and marketing and promoting visitation, because of course, when not possible, we transitioned to a plan to how we help existing businesses. So at one point we were working with our local, I know Pima County is connected here to this conversation, and working with them and with the city of Tucson to sometimes repurpose some employees of the hospitality industry. We were able to find some jobs for people in housekeeping, mostly from hotels, that were able to transition to where the hospitals, that they were needing more people for cleaning. So there was a lot of coordination between, again, our industries and just on a recovery or a survival process. Now, today, I'm glad to see that I think we're going into a recovery mode. and the demand is growing. There's a term that I love that I heard recently that is called revenge tourism. That means that people, they want to travel, they want to go out. We've been for 12 months meeting by looking at each other little squares on a screen. We want to be traveling, and everyone wants to be traveling. So we're going to see that recovery, and it's starting to happen right now. I saw the data from Smith Travel Research, and that's a company. Smith Travel Research, basically, they provide us with hotel occupancy, the rates and that were charged by hotels, and then the revenue per available room. So how much revenue per room hotels are generating in specific markets. And we look at data from our region, and there's 14 cities that we look data from. And I'm glad to see that Phoenix and Tucson are leading, actually. Our comp said we're leading against Austin or San Diego and San Francisco. And it has to do with many factors. One, I think we were able to pivot really fast and start marketing and promoting the destination at the right time. Number two, people are looking for open spaces. There's a great opportunity for us to go and promote. I mean, if you're in a city that is heavily dense on population, you want to go out and see other places. So that's, I think, that what we're seeing right now. Again, the only interesting fact was on the tax revenue. And I think there were some surprises here on the tax revenue, because even though we lost a lot of money on bed tax collections, and we lost a lot of money on sales tax collections because of the closure of the border, the partial closure of the border, still there were some changes in the state of Arizona that allowed our cities and our state to not do great, but not do as bad. Number one, online sales. Years ago, online sales, they were not taxable in the state of Arizona unless the transaction happened with a company or a retailer that had a physical presence in the state. So if I was buying something on Amazon, or I was buying online from a store in New Jersey and they ship it to me in Tucson, if that company didn't have a store in Tucson or Arizona, it will not generate a sales tax. Now they're doing it. Now they're generating sales tax. And then the construction sales tax, we're seeing a lot of construction in the state. So when I look at cities and state and the county and the state, I think that's been a really a kind of a nice buffer. Not that it's great, not that we have to say that things are amazing, but I think that that's helping on the tax revenue side. Of course, we're seeing a huge drop in the collection of bed taxes, and this is the time that we need those bed taxes to market and promote. The state that did the best during the pandemic, believe it or not, was the state that invested the most in tourism. That was Utah. Utah decided not to cut their marketing budget to promote tourism, and now we see that they beat Arizona and they beat Nevada, and they beat many of the states on the recovery. So that's why we need those bed taxes to keep coming back, to be reinvested in marketing and promotion.
Thank you, Felipe. And now we're gonna go with Elsa.
Thank you, Marisol. Thank you, Felipe. Well, I would like to continue what Karin was just mentioning, that about the leisure and hospitality sectors. We all know that the sectors continue to be the hardest hit due to the pandemic. But on the bright side, we are now seeing an increase in employment in this sector. In April 2021, this sector increased by 8,300 jobs compared to February. So that's a good increase and give us hope that now with the strategies, especially the back to work strategy now being implemented, more jobs will be created. And in order to measure the impact of the pandemic, the Maricopa Association of Governments created a white paper focusing on Arizona's trade and tourism with Mexico and Canada for the period of 2019 to 2020. So among the findings, in 2020, the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, international passenger arrivals fell by 63% and by 52% in domestic passenger arrivals. So, you know, that's a good indicator how many people were visiting that our state in that year, or the metro region of Phoenix. It is important to mention that recent studies estimate that overnight visitors from Mexico contracted from 4 million visits in 2019 to only 1.5 million in 2020, largely impacting our state's economy. And nevertheless, even amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and current land border closures, as Felipe was just mentioning, Mexico still comprised 59% of the international visitation to Arizona and accounted for 613 million in spending in 2020. So with that, I'll give it back to you, Marisol.
Thank you, Elsa. And this, I'm sure this passenger was, all the visitors were flying in to Phoenix, right? Or Tucson in a private jet or on private airplanes, for sure.
Yes, only to Phoenix International
Okay,
Airport.
this is okay. Thank you. So now we're gonna go to the next question, and the question is for all panelists, starting with Felipe, then Karin and Elsa. What are the main challenges that tourism industry has faced due to COVID? You guys can already answer this question, but I would like to see if you want to expand a little bit more on this.
So I think on the challenges, number one, staff. And we're hearing these from hotel managers, we're hearing these from restaurant owners. They cannot find staff, they cannot find employees. They've been trying to rehire, but they cannot find individuals to employ. A resort manager was telling me, yes, we're getting some people that they wanna work, they wanna come back to work, but they're not trained to work. They don't have the quality service that is needed. So that there's a gap there that we need to, because we're seeing again a spike on our recovery, but we were not able to recruit. Restaurants, the same thing. We're working for staff for restaurants. We cannot find it. I mean, it's amazing to look at certain restaurants that they have decided to post a sign saying, sorry for the low service, we're short-handed right now, if you're looking for a job, please call this number or come to see our HR team. I think that's going to be one challenge. Number two, it's, as I mentioned, if we don't invest in marketing and promotion, we're going to be left behind. I mean, this is a market that we need to be telling a story over and over and over again. And the third area that I would like to comment, it's on how are we going to handle the masks? How are we going to handle hand sanitizing? How are we going to handle the post-COVID world, if there's anything that's post-COVID? And the reason I'm mentioning this is that this week, Longwoods International, it's a company that does research about every week, every Monday, they put out a report and they tell us what is the sentiment of the US traveler. And it's been fascinating to look into. A few months ago, of course, that they were saying, I don't want to travel, I don't want to go into an airplane, I don't want tourists in my community because I'm afraid that they're going to bring COVID to my community. And that has shifted. And now people are looking forward to travel. They're making travel plans in the next 6 months. They're okay, maybe going into a plane, they still prefer to drive. But something that is fascinating is that the report from this Monday is saying that consumers and tourists still want to see certain precautions in communities where they're visiting. They're not yet comfortable with, okay, no masks, no nothing, everything's fine. There's still a fine line. And the challenge is that as an hotel owner, as a restaurant owner, as a business owner, how do you interact with those? How do you set up mask mandates, and how do you train your staff if you want masks because certain clients want masks or some others don't? So there's a tricky area there, and that we need to work on. And I think those are going to be, again, the three challenges that we need to see for the near future.
So what I'm hearing here, Felipe, is that you're expecting, or we're expecting that people start traveling between Memorial and Labor Day during the summer for sure, right? They feel comfortable to start.
I think Longwood says that over 80%, I think is more than that, of the people that they survey, they're planning to travel in the next 6 months. And we have a compression because we cannot go, and Glenn is fixing that, I'm pretty sure, to going to Canada, but there's limitations traveling to Canada. There's certain limitations to travel to Mexico. There's limitations to travel to many places. So we're building compression in the US market. People have to stay here in the US for the foreseeable future. So we need to be ready.
So the promotional efforts going to regional, like 6 hours market, driving market. Perfect. So any comments, Karin and Elsa?
Apologies, I muted myself. Felipe touched on a very current challenge, which is definitely, we're facing workforce shortages. We're seeing a lot of employee shortages in a time of returning demand. As Felipe mentioned, our industry management teams are having to review all of their staffing requirements and focus on reskilling of their employees because current job responsibilities continue to shift. So, top of mind there. But one of the other challenges that are facing and that are related to our hotels is our hotels need federal aid. Hotels are the only segment of the hospitality and leisure industry that have not received direct aid. And the industry employment represents more than 25% of all unemployed people in the US. So I think that's really important to notice. There are many other industries did receive some sort of assistance, but our hotels yet have not received any. So that continues to be a big challenge and definitely one for the lodging associations. Second, I'd say we're also focused on safely restoring business group travel, meetings and events. We're getting a fair number of leisure travelers. We've seen those numbers go up, but it seems Arizona, like most states, is missing out on meetings, corporate and event related travel. And that is a big revenue generator for not only for our industry, but of course for our state. So I would just say that as the industry navigates this issue, we need to continue to urge our lawmakers to help save hotel jobs, to advocate, as Felipe mentioned earlier, for additional resources and market dollars so that businesses can find ways to build back a stronger workforce.
Thank you. Elsa, any comments that you want to add on this or expand?
I would just like to expand my appreciation and recognize the immense work all the local governments had to go through in order to provide support, provide guidance, provide collaboration and communication among the different organizations in their region. Mm-hmm. I believe that addressing the concerns of every citizen is always a challenge, but also how they also offer the different resources and grants and provided communication in Spanish and other languages for all the minorities in their area. That needs to be recognized because when you're trying to prevent a spread of a virus, a public health emergency, everyone needs to have the information available immediately and also be proactive at the same time. You're expanding your staff, your overworking, your resources, limited resources, and it is impressive what the collaboration, especially that I've seen at MAC, has been able to accomplish. So mm-hmm. Kudos to all the people that needed to go through this transition and accommodate also to the tourism industry that continues to be hit.
Yeah, and that is a good point, Elsa. And I know because I'm based in Tucson, I know Pima County, they do a really good job with communicating information in both English and Spanish, and the website, the microsites that they have, and they post, they're doing a tremendously and fantastic job communicating all this information for our also for the Spanish-speaking market as well.
Yeah, and Marisol, if I may, as you mentioned, the county, I think they've done a great job understanding, partnering, getting tourism, and the city as well. I mean, I was very glad to see our mayor, Regina Romero, doing weekly, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, daily post in English and then in Spanish, and really paying attention not only to the language issues, but actually mm-hmm. deploying resources and efforts to connect with the population that sometimes is not only an issue of language, it's an issue of how we consume information and media as Hispanics. So I'm glad to see that we, through the city of Tucson and Pima County here in Tucson, we were able to do well. I think that the partnerships are amazing. And Elsa, I agree with you that we need everyone. We need everyone in the room to be looking into the tourism industry as a way of recovery. So yeah, happy and proud of the leadership in our community that help us go through some tough times. And now they're looking to really invest in us to keep going to the future as well and be ready to receive that again, revenge tourism coming into our state.
Yeah, and we're ready. So the next question is for all panelists, starting with Karin and then Felipe and Elsa. Are Arizona and Sonora, and I will scratch Sonora for now, collaborating with the private sector or the public sector in the terms of recovery plan? Do you guys have any recovery plan post-pandemic? If so, how? Who wants to? Karin?
Sure. So our industry, has really been leading with solutions. We've been on the front lines of the impact on this from day one. Our industry was hit, and it's going to be the one, to last recover from this. But having said that, we're incredibly proud of our leadership leading with solutions, and we've collaborated very closely with both the public and private sectors. I think one of the most important things that in our recovery that we're going to need is going to be reestablishing consumer confidence, as Felipe had mentioned earlier as well, and ensuring that those visitors that all the competing destinations are vying for feel comfortable traveling once again, feel comfortable staying in our hotels, feel safe and secure in our hotels. So we early on partnered with our national association, all the national hotel brands and the CDC to come up with a program in Arizona called Easy, Safe, and Clean, which is modeled after the American Hotel and Lodging Association Safe Stay Initiative. And it was really an effort to demonstrate to the world that what is already gold standard in cleanliness, health, safety protocols has been taken, and then elevated to an even higher level. So we are really proud of this effort, Easy, Safe, and Clean. I can tell you that it's been a very successful program for us here at AZLTA and of course in Arizona. And in fact, our initiative was very helpful and instrumental and was put in good use with Sonora, as well as our colleagues with the Secretary of Tourism Office and also in Puerto Peñasco have modeled our program and implemented something similar for the hotels in Sonora.
Oh, thank you. And Felipe, do you want to expand on this?
I agree with Karin that, again, congratulations, that model that I know that was replicated in the state of Sonora. Again, another sign of collaboration. On the recovery side, we built, during the pandemic, the crunch months last year, we developed internally a plan to help support businesses during those times. Now we have built a second recovery plan that has goals, objectives, and tactics. We're going up to a tactical level. And Marisol, as you mentioned, these programs have been developed in partnership with our community, for the private sector and public sector. We have a committee at Visit Tucson that has been looking at the recovery plan. We had our strategic board retreat a few weeks ago, where we had representatives from many sectors in the industry. And also we have City of Tucson, Pima County, Town of Oro Valley representatives. And we worked through that plan on how we're going to help recover our businesses, how we're going to help go back to a level that we feel comfortable of regaining tourism here to Tucson. So I think that we are ready. Graham Hughes, our director of sales, he says, I'm already executing my recovery plan. It's not something that I'm planning the future, is happening right now. And we're starting to see meetings come back and groups come back. And we want to be careful in how we bring them back, that we want them to feel safe. We want them to feel welcomed. We want them to come to a place that they can have a great experience. But again, the time is right now. The time to start not building our plans, executing our plans is right now.
Mm-hmm. Felipe, and can you take a little bit of the expansion of the patio for restaurants so people can feel more? That's another way that the city and the Pima County been helping the restaurants in downtown to go through the pandemic. And
yeah, that was very interesting. Again, that's collaboration between private and public sector. So as you remember, there were limitations in many cities on occupancy inside of restaurants to be able to bring people back. And I remember there were meetings of restaurants and says, well, if I cut my capacity at 50% and provide distancing just based on the actual layout of my building, I can accommodate 20% maybe. I cannot do 50%. So city, county, and state government, they were able to help us move really fast to do an extension of premises and then extend the liquor license to actually incorporate a sidewalk or incorporate some space. In downtown Tucson, even the local partnership, the Downtown Tucson Partnership, and some private investors, they put some money to help accommodate and build those facilities out. Now, something that is fascinating is that we're hearing from visitors saying, this is great. Once pandemic is over, don't take him out, leave him. They're great spaces. They're taking a few parking spots in the front, but they're amazing. Don't take it out. So I think even for this pandemic, we learned a few great things, and that there's things that we can take out, but I think there's some things that we need to really keep for the foreseeable future. And one is this space. And again, going back to that collaboration, that working restaurant owners, city, county, state, making sure that these things were moving really, really fast. So that I'm glad to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Elsa, do you want to expand on this?
Wow.
And see what is happening in Phoenix as well? I'm sure it's the same. It's kind of the same approach, right?
Yes, and I'm happy to provide a statewide overview, because I had the opportunity to coordinate the Arizona Mega Region Council meeting that just happened last March. And if you're not familiar with the Arizona Mega Region Council does, this is a meeting for elected officials from both states, from Arizona and Sonora. So they recently had a meeting where they discussed possible ways to collaborate, and also maybe perspectives to reactivate their economies to build stronger. So during the last meeting, we had the honor of having the participation of representatives from the Arizona Governor's Office, Juan Ciscomani, as you may know him, and the Sonoran Governor Office, Pano Salido. So we really want to make a point to thank the collaboration of the Ministry of Economy of the state of Sonora to organize this event along with us at MAG. We hosted a panel of elected officials discussing the challenges, as I mentioned, and the opportunities for recovery in the mega region. And if you're interested about the panel, I can share the YouTube recording of this webinar. The mayor of the city of Phoenix, Kate Gallego, and the then mayor of the city of Hermosillo, Celida Lopez Cárdenas, the Pima County, you were mentioning the Pima County Board of Supervisors chair, Supervisor Sharon Bronson join us, as well as the representative from the city of San Luis Rio Colorado. And they all share experiences facing the pandemic, protecting their citizens and their economies, how challenging that was. And the binational collaboration was without a doubt a priority, as they know that we are interconnected, our economies are interdependent. And there's also the discussion. The discussion was also moderated with the private industry, which was represented by the Arizona Commerce Authority and the Canacintra Chamber of Commerce of Industry in Hermosillo. If you're familiar with Canacintra, they led the discussion during that panel, which was very informative, how the private and the public can engage in conversations through forums like we just held. So additionally, we had the honor of having the presence of the Consul General of the US in Hermosillo, Ken Roy, and also the Consul General of Mexico in Phoenix, Jorge Gonzalez Yescas. So this was proof of a multi-level commitment of working binationally, and an overall a strong message of unity and hope for an economic and social recovery after the pandemic. So if I answered the question, if we're working binationally, we are, and also the event today with both of our state's governors making that point. Thank you, Marisol.
Thank you, Elsa. And Karin, just want to ask you if you have any other initiative that you recently your ACLTA initiative recently launched, such as the Hotel Clean Check program and other programs that you are working with our partners in tourism?
So we've definitely, this past year, we've really created some opportunities for engagement and also just to keep our members up to date. This year, we launched the Advocacy and Occupancy Today program, which is a program that we wanted to do that would bring in not only our members, but also lawmakers, and really update them on, what's currently happening in our industry, what are the needs in our industry. And then, of course, we have our Tourism Talk webinar series that I'm sure some of you have participated and attended. We launched that last August, and definitely have had quite a few great speakers. And again, we're always looking at, what are some of the topics, what are some of the needs, again, for our industry. But we also have had an opportunity to host a couple of roundtable meetings with Sonora, with our colleagues there in Sonora that manage the tourism industry. as well as with Rocky Point. Rocky Point Visitors Conventions Bureau, they're very strong as well. And like I said, they really modeled some of our initiatives that we launched here in Arizona, and have applied that. And it's been very helpful for them. So we're glad to see that.
Thank you, Karin. And now we would like to know more information about the pilot program for the extension of the border zone in Arizona. And Elsa will be the perfect person to explain this initiative. Elsa, please talk about the legislation of the pilot program for the extension of the border zone in Arizona. What is the status of the program? What will benefit bring to Arizona? What will be the benefit from this program? Is implemented, is already approved and implemented? What will be the economic impact of this program? The floor is yours, Elsa.
Thank you, Marisol. And to answer some of your questions, I just like to thank the Karin's organization that is also one of the agencies that have helped promote this legislation. So thank you for all the effort that you have supported, as well as Visit Tucson. Thank you again for your support. First of all, we need to define what is the border crossing card. So this is a United States visa for tourism and business purposes. In other words, it's a B1, B2 visa for Mexican nationals to visit the US. However, there is a catch. They are limited to remain on the 75 miles radius from the border. And if these tourists are interested in passing that limit, they can, but they need to obtain a form called I-94 and at the US Customs and Border Protection Agency location. So this is, again, a filter, a deterrent that maybe distract tourism, Mexican tourism to come to the US over the 75-mile radius. And if you are not familiar with the process of how to obtain an I-94, at this location, at the CBP office, the individual or group of people, families, grandparents, everyone that needs to come to our area beyond that 75-mile radius need to wait for hours sometimes. And they need to demonstrate the reason of their travel, bring proofs such as plans, reservations, and even if required, prove diverse financial, academic, and personal statements. So after approval or upon approval of the officer at that location, the Mexican holder of this US visa can then travel beyond the 75-mile radius to places like Phoenix, the metropolitan area, the Grand Canyon, Flagstaff, Page, like Karin just mentioned, among other destinations in the rest of the state beyond that limit. So MAC has worked for many years in tightening its relations with Mexico and the private and public organizations there. And after the economic recession around 2013, MAC decided to engage in an ambitious and pioneer economic development strategy focused on facilitating the experience of the Mexican visitors, holders of this visa, the border crossing card, to be able to visit the entire state of Sonora, the entire state of Arizona. So MAC then conducted a regional effort and formed a coalition interested in supporting this legislation. Additionally, even brought a delegation of local elected officials to meet with the Mexican government agencies in Mexico City back in 2019. Councilmember Luna was one of the members of that delegation. So I just want to say kudos and thank you for joining that effort. And how the legislation process happened. So the message in Washington, D.C. was led by former Congressman Jim Colby. And Congressman Colby participated at the Arizona Mega Council, Arizona Mega Region Council webinar that we just hosted last March. And there he shared about his experience leading these legislations, this effort at our nation's capital. So during his participations, he talked about this particular provision in US immigration law. They have been working to get change in order to benefit both the United States and Mexico. And that dates back to 1987 Immigration Act. This act created the provision called the Border Crossing Card that allows Mexican citizens to go to the US, a US consulate in Mexico, and get a border crossing card that allows them to come into the US. So at the beginning, it was only limited to a zone of 25 miles from the border. And it was successful. due to the concept of traveling for shopping and commerce at the border region. So that was after this success, Congressman Colby told us that then they sought to extend that travel zone, which the law permitted only to be done by executive order. So it was extended in Arizona to 75 miles instead of 25, so that people could come as far as Tucson. So I know that Felipe is perfectly aware of this legislation. And through the Maricopa Association of Governments and diverse chambers of commerce and other organizations in the state, such as the ACTF, and the conversations about extending the zone to the entire state began around 2013. And they all agree on the heavy economic benefit of this potential legislation. And the University of Arizona actually conducted a study, how much would the state would benefit out of this piece of legislation. And they expected an increase of at least 160 million a year from attracting more Mexican tourism to the entire state. And that was a study conducted in 2015. And maybe we can even have even more revenue out of this potential legislation. So the people who have the border crossing cards are the most vetted people that get a visa from the US government, and the non-compliance numbers are less than 1%. That means the people that overstay their visa is really minimal. 99% of people like and have their tourist visa to come for tourism and business purposes to our region. So as I said, they are highly vetted and they have high income, proven income, and it was a shame that in the last few years was difficult to accomplish the extension of the zone due to these tense immigration issues in Congress between the US and Mexico. So it was until 2020 that the last appropriations bill, Congressman Colby told us that they included a provision in the report of the bill that said that we wanted the Customs and Border Protection Agency to extend it, the limitation to this entire state of Arizona and also included New Mexico, and provide a report on how they were going to accomplish that. So with the change of federal administration in between, this has not occurred yet. We don't have news from the CBP at the moment, but MAC, along with the leadership of the Arizona bipartisan congressional delegation, we will continue to monitor any updates and sharing this information with the binational community through organizations such as yours, the Arizona Town Hall, and of course the diverse chambers of commerce, consulate, and tourist association on both sides of the border, because we both will benefit from this legislation. So we look forward to the implementation of this recommendation to the CBP and hopefully the tremendous potential economic benefit to Arizona's tourism industry. And I particularly see it as a gesture of further deepen the relationship between our two countries, and of course, make it easier for the Mexican tourists interested in discovering our region. For example, I can think of my parents that live in Baja. I would like them to not wait in line for 3 hours or more waiting for that CBP appointment to get the I-94 at the border. So for them to come and visit me sometime soon, that would be great. So thank you, Marisol.
Mm-hmm. And this permit is an extra. You have to have your visa first.
Yes, these are people that already are holders
an extra
of this B1, B2 visa, also known as border crossing card. In general, I had it growing up my entire life. It was just the way to cross to the US. You go to your consulate or embassy, you go through all of this vetting process, and you and your family, of course, and then they authorize. It's a visa, as any other country will give you a visa. Yes.
So, yeah, so it's removing a barrier, and it make it easy to the Mexican visitors to come to the entire state of Arizona, right?
Correct. And I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Is any way you can share the white paper with the audience on the link to the white paper, or no, it's not released yet?
Sure. I'll happy to do so.
Thank you, Elsa. Karin, my question is how the proposed extension of the border zone will benefit Arizona?
Well, as Elsa mentioned, I think there's no doubt that the extension of the border zone through this pilot program is going to provide a much needed lifeline to Arizona as we recover from the pandemic. As she said, and you know, numbers that we've seen, and there's an estimated 1 billion that is expected in additional spending by tourists from Mexico. So, and we know that Mexico is Arizona's top market. I'm sure, you know, for many of our friends and colleagues in Sonora, this at times I think was a deterring factor when they were traveling to Arizona, and the fact that they, you know, no longer have to solicit a permit is going to be, I think, a big win for Arizona as well. Of course, it's going to benefit us, you know, and this is also going to give them the opportunity, as Elsa mentioned, you know, to explore more of Arizona. Maybe for a lot of those that weren't able to travel all the way to Flagstaff or Page or Sedona, now they're going to have the opportunity to visit these destinations, and of course that's a benefit for our state. So we definitely look forward to welcoming our friends in Sonora and Mexican visitors back to Arizona soon.
Thank you, Karin. And Felipe, I know we're gonna keep the visitors in Tucson, right? So my question for you will be, what will be the impact to the tourism in Tucson and Southern Arizona with this extension of the border zone?
I think it's just going to be providing us, as and Karin and Elsa mentioned, an opportunity to go as a leisure explorer to other parts of the state. And then Elsa mentioned something very interesting. A couple of things. Number one, the reason to have this card, the I-94, el permiso, known people in Mexico, it's kind of archaic and old school right now. I don't think it's necessary. State Department does an amazing job of interviewing qualified individuals. So a person to get their board and crossing card, their B1, B2 visa, they went already to vetting system, and the State Department look at them, research them, sometimes did an interview with them, and then they tell that individual in Mexico, you know something, I trust you. Here's a card that doesn't guarantee you access to the US. It just gives you the opportunity to present yourself and ask to be admitted to the US. So if we've done that, why then say, okay, I'm allowing you to come in, but then if you're going to travel farther, let me give you another challenge that you have to go through. I think that, again, looking even at the cost recovery, U.S. Customs loses money in this crossing card. There's a fee associated with it, but still the manpower, the time that it takes to process these has been challenging. And again, the obstacles that we face at the border. I think it's a good opportunity, and most important, and again, Elsa mentioned this, is showing people in Mexico that we care about them, that we care about visitation. In all honesty, I hope that we see some reciprocity on the behalf of Mexico, and they can extend the travel zone all the way to all the state of Sonora. So likewise, for us in Arizona, we can travel easier into the state of Sonora. I think that will be awesome. So I think it's good. It's a good message to tell our friends from Mexico at this moment.
Yeah, to make it easy to move between the states. So that's a great initiative. So we're gonna move to the next question. And the question is, what is the state of Arizona is doing to re-attract tourism as we move forward to the pandemic and make people feel safe? And the question is for you, Felipe.
So I think, again, right now it's messaging, it's telling our story, and through social media, through our websites. I mean, I've seen every single tourism office here in the state and in the US that we're highlighting COVID protocols or safety protocols. I mean, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we've never had, this is the flu season, so do this thing when you're visiting our community. Now we have to be more active, and again, partnering with ACLTA in telling those visitors, here, you're gonna be safe when you come here. So it's a process. It'll take time. We'll learn a lot through the time coming. But again, right now, what we have to do is tell our story. If we don't say our story, someone else is going to say it for us, and usually it's not what you want to hear. So that's what is most important right now, and how we build for recovery in the short time.
Oh, thank you. And we're promoting a lot the outdoor activities, right? That's one of the main in the summer in Tucson or summer in Arizona, which we are reaching and vast in outdoor activities. So.
Open spaces, open minds. That's the message we're telling people. Don't hop in the subway in New York and be next to hundreds of people. Come and enjoy the outdoors when you're ready. That's the message. When you're ready, we're ready to welcome you here in our community. And again, we want to be making sure that people feel comfortable. And as Karin mentioned, that we are building that consumer confidence.
Thank you. So now, the $1 million question. When is the U.S. border will reopen again? It's been closed for about 14 months already. Will June 21st will be the final day, Felipe? Do you want to bet again?
I already lost the bet. I thought that tomorrow was going to be the day, to be honest. Glenn Williamson, I think that he has the signature power that he will open the Canadian border. So hopefully that will happen. Look, what I know right now is, number one, last year, there was no plan to reopen the border. I mean, every month we were literally kicking the can. Another month sounded like the New Year resolution diet. I'm going to start dieting and exercising Monday, but there was never the actual Monday. It was some Monday in the future. So when I was talking to some of our colleagues about back in April, May, okay, so what's the plan? It's like, well, there's no plan. We'll reassess in 1 month, and every month it was another month. But in January, actually, President Biden signed an executive order from the White House instructing the Department of Transportation, instructing the Department of Homeland Security, CDC, to start conversations with their counterparts in the US and in Mexico to build a plan for reopening. So finally, there's actually action being taken place to build a plan to reopen. And there's been conversations between the US, Mexico, and Canada, collectively and individually, to make sure that we have, again, this process. So that's what gives me hope. Again, I lost a bet to Marisol. I have to treat her and my staff in Hermosillo to a dinner in Mochomos next time we're down there, because I was betting and again, I was betting that Glenn will just let the Prime Minister know, Prime Minister, let's open the border between the US and Canada. It will happen soon, I'm pretty sure. But again, based on that executive order from the president, based that there's conversations right now going on, I think that is going to be next month. And my hope is in the next few weeks, we'll hear what's the plan, what's going to be the process. Is going to be just opening the border completely, or is it going to be on a phased level? But I think that we're going to hear something in the next few weeks. And
also the protocols, right? That they're going to implement in the to enter into the U.S.
Yeah, we've been talking to U.S. Customs about protocols for re-entering the border and what is going to be needed. I mean, and it's because people from Mexico are calling and saying, and something to also look into, even though we're saying that the borders are closed, they're not closed. They're open. They're partially closed for non-essential travel. Still, every year we receive about 23 million visits from Mexico in Arizona. We received about 12 million last year. I mean, even with a closed border, still 12 million visits from Mexico to the state of Arizona. So people are calling and said, okay, I'm have an appointment, a business meeting in Tucson, and when I get to the border, do I take my mask down? Do I leave it on? Should I put the window up or down? Do I hand my passport to the customs officer? Do I put it in a Ziploc bag? So that's the questions that we want to get an answers. And yeah, I see Consul Williamson. Yes, I know it was extended to the 21st of June. I was betting that it was the 21st of May that when they were going to be reopening, but I lost that bet.
So now we had to eat at Mochomos in Hermosillo.
Yes.
Thank you, Felipe. Now we're going to go to the next question, and it's about diversity and inclusion. Without question, our region is blessed with diversity, right? Do you believe that we're doing enough to make visitors from Mexico feel welcome to Arizona? And I will start with you, Karin, and then Felipe and Elsa.
So, travel and tourism is a thread that binds us together. And I think there's always room for growth when it comes to this subject, diversity and inclusion. And we saw a lot of that, I think, last year. But I do have to say that our partners, the Arizona Office of Tourism and our destination marketing organizations, I think they've done a great job in making our international visitors from Mexico feel welcome. I think DMOs such as, Visit Tucson, Visit Phoenix, Visit Yuma, Scottsdale, and many others, they've really done an amazing job in curating experiences and content that appeals to our Mexico travelers. Again, they're our top market here. I could tell you that here at AZLTA, we have a great working relationship with our colleagues in Sonora and other states in Mexico, in Baja California as well. And we continue to collaborate with them on diversified creative, experiences and really on the on-ground execution here. So one last thing that I'd like to note that we're really proud of is, we have an AZLTA international member, which is in Rocky Point. It's Las Palomas Beach and Golf Resort. And then we also, work very closely with Visit Rocky Point Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I'm sure we will see more diversified, though, collaboration in the future.
Thank you, Karin. Felipe?
I think we're doing good, but there's still a lot that we can improve in many ways. My friends in Texas, for example, they have the Manifiesto program that people from Mexico can shop in the state of Texas and get their taxes rebated, their sales tax rebated. And there's interesting mechanisms so they can spend it back again in Texas. They have the Texas Days also, that is for all the state. But right now, if I'm a traveler from Monterrey and I'm going to San Antonio, Laredo, or McAllen shopping, and there's certain regulations, and I can get my sales tax, and there's a model for them to respend it, and they've proven that money gets respent at a higher level, so they don't take that money back to their communities. I think that we can do more things with our retailers, training them and educating them about the importance of that market, how to treat them, how to work with them. I think we're doing good, but there's still things that we can improve. But I'm glad to see organizations like MAG, ACLTA, the Arizona Mexico Commission, our local governments that are really paying attention to this market and really doing changes to help us connect. We are a diverse community at the state of Arizona, but I think that we still have a few things to improve. We can do good, but I think we're doing good, but we can do better.
And at Visit Tucson, we had this program called 10 Step to be Mexico Ready. Do you want to expand on that, Felipe?
Sure. So we have a training program that we do for local hotels, restaurants, doctors, business owners on 15 things that you can do in your business to be not Mexico friendly, but be Mexico ready. We want for that visitor from Mexico to come and have an amazing experience at your business. And then the return is that you're gonna make more money as a business owner. So it's a win-win on both sides. The customer is gonna be happy and they'll be spending more money in your restaurant, your business. One example real fast that we go to restaurants. If I go to a restaurant here in Arizona for lunch today, and the waiter comes and tells me at 12:42 p.m., is everything okay with your lunch? And yes, I'm okay. They will drop the check at the table and I'll say, wow, that was great service. It was fast. If I see some of my peers from Mexico here, Elsa, when you were back in Baja, if a waiter comes to you and tells you, Elsa, everything's good. Yeah, here's your check. That's offensive. That's like, are you trying to get rid of me or trying to keep me out? So again, it's small little things that if you change your practices, you'll be able to generate more money. And again, get that visitor feel better and more welcome.
Okay. And we're planning to launch the workshops through Visit Tucson. And we're going to launch it on June, sometime in the last week of June, and every other month after that. So Elsa, any comments that you had on this question?
What are we doing to improve our relation with Mexico? And I believe I already shared that the Arizona Mega Region Council, it's a big effort. And I believe this is a good forum that we can continue these important discussions, and we look forward to having an in-person meeting, hopefully happening at the League of Arizona Cities and Towns late in August. And just the importance of this discussion is the reopening, reactivation of the economy, but also continuing the important communication between our local government that really speaks to the binational community that we are in Arizona and Sonora. So having said that, I know that the tourism industry is fighting, is really thriving and innovating. So I look forward to keep learning about what the ACTL is doing. Visit Phoenix, visit Tucson, visit Scottsdale, visit Mesa, many organizations that are really being innovative and being virtual. That is a challenge. So congratulations to everyone that is also hosting this important panel. And I'm just really, really honored to be here.
Thank you, Elsa. And now we're gonna proceed to read some questions in the chat room, but I don't see any questions. But if you feel, if you wanna make your question, just open your mic and you can make your question directly to the panelists. No questions?
Hi, this is Councilmember David Luna from the city of Mesa. And thank you for the presentation. But I did want to let Karin, and it's something that Elsa alluded to, is Felipe and Karin, you might want to look at municipalities for assistance in some of the hotels. We just learned today in the city of Mesa through the, the American Rescue Plan does allow for the hospitality industry to acquire some funds to support their efforts. So reach out to Phoenix, reach out to Tucson, and if you're in the city of Mesa or any municipality, there are funds available to support your efforts. So just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you, Council Member. And so last time, actually, with the CARES recovery program, the Pima County was able to give us a grant for us to reinvest in marketing. That was amazing. We're having conversations right now. And the city of Tucson, again, the leadership of our mayor and our council members, even though bed tax collections are down and technically our budget will be down, they're looking to help invest using some of these resources in tourism marketing and promotion. So thank you for that advice, and definitely we have taken it all right into consideration, and happy to see our leadership that understand that the importance of tourism and they're investing in our industry.
Thank you, Councilmember Luna. Anybody else have any other questions?
Marisol, I would like to congratulate to all the panel. It was, as always, very, very gratifying to hear you. We are very, very thankful for all what you have been doing for Sonora. We have always been with a lot of going back and forth in information and with a lot of advice in order to go further. And fortunately, we have been doing well in the economy, and also we are doing good now in the pandemics. So we hope pretty soon we will go forward for the next step post-pandemic. Congratulations for the panel.
And Gonzalo, hopefully you can, sorry Marisol, that introduced.
No, go ahead, Felipe.
Interrupt. Gonzalo, hopefully you can also share with, through this organization, the plan that you build on recovery for the state of Sonora. I think that was a great exercise that you put together on a recovery plan for tourism in the state of Sonora that will go beyond government administration. So congratulations for that effort. And I think that will be great for the town hall and everyone to get a copy of it.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot, Felipe. Yes, we since last year and on April. Well, I will tell you that on November when we were in the commission in Mexico, the governor received the Kaufman Award, and then we start planning an event in Tucson, and but the pandemic came. So we planned a conference that was called the Performance Against the Pandemics. So from there, we developed a plan for tourism in Sonora to 2021, 2030, and we share a lot of information and with the PI Global Network in order to define specific targets to enhance the tourism in three areas. One Peñasco, one Hermosillo, and one the south of Sonora. South of Sonora through the Obregon Airport, Hermosillo through the Hermosillo Airport, and Puerto Peñasco through the Sonorita Puerto Peñasco road. So with that, we hope to the gap that we have with you in tourism, we can close it because we know we have as a region a lot of potential. So thanks a lot for all your help.
Thank you, Gonzalo, for making us part of that project. It's an amazing project for sure. Anybody else? We have one more time for one more question. Oh, actually, we had two questions. Patricia, Patty, Pat.
Thank you very much. And again, let me compliment the panel and our facilitator for doing a fabulous job. My question relates to the point that was made early on in the program in discussing the challenges facing the economic recovery of our tourism and hospitality industry. And it has to do with staffing. The whole issue of staffing has been very controversial, both in Arizona and nationally. And we know that we've heard some of our politicians say that, well, people are being disincentivized to apply for jobs because of unemployment compensation. And I would point out that Arizona, without the federal funding, has the second or the third lowest unemployment compensation in the nation. And then we hear that perhaps a real cause of this is concern about safety, going back into these very personal positions, or, for example, lack of childcare. When you have perhaps the breadwinner, who oftentimes is the mother, who is taking care of the kids because they're not in school or they're in a limited access school, she can't go back into the job market. And so we hear a lot of competing storylines about incentives or lack of incentives. You mentioned that one impediment may well be lack of skills or experience or having to reskill potential employees. And I'm sure there are other reasons, but from your perspective, based on your constituents in Arizona, what do you hear from them as what is causing the problem with staffing? Is it, for example, anything I've mentioned? Could it be the low hourly wage? What is the root? What do you think are the root causes of the problem?
Pat, I think it's all of the above that you mentioned. There's different factors. And even pre-pandemic, there was an issue even at restaurants on the way that the back of the house is being remunerated at a lower level. I mean, I see restaurants that a waiter can be making $120,000 a year at a nice restaurant, and the person in the kitchen is still doing minimum wage. And you say, well, the person that is delivering that amazing steak and making $120,000 a year, part of their success on tipping is someone on the back making a really good steak. So I think all of those bad are the situation. The problem right now is timing. I mean, even reskilling says, do we have the time? I mean, we have visitors coming in right now. Do we have the time to retrain individuals? I know many hotels are doing individually some bonuses and incentives, telling people, if you help me recruit someone, I'll give you a bonus. And if they show up and they're still here after 2 weeks and 4 weeks, we'll give you more incentives. So I don't think there's an easy solution. I know the ACLTA and others are looking into this, but the cost, I think, Pat, everything that you mentioned, it's part of it.
Yeah, I just want to add, everything that Felipe just said, really, Patty, everything that you mentioned, those are all concerns. And I can tell you that ACLTA is at the forefront. We are working very closely with lawmakers, legislative members, and of course our industry leaders, to really find solutions for that. And as Felipe mentioned, our hotels have really gotten creative and very innovative on ways to really incentivize for some of these employees to come back to the workforce. And I think one thing that you mentioned about again, I don't think we can stress it enough. We just need to constantly work on rebuilding that consumer confidence. And that goes not only for the visitors, the guests, but also for the employees. You know, that I'm sure that could be a very strong fact that some of them may not feel safe. And but again, I think as we continue to work on these guidelines, we continue to ensure our employees and our visitors that we're doing everything possible to make sure that everybody keeps safe. I think that's going to go a long ways, and we're going to see that transition. And as Felipe mentioned, I think timing, it's really just the timing. Things have changed so much, even in within a day. Just these last 4 months, we've seen so many changes from, you know, the beginning of the year that vaccinations rolled out to, you know, all of a sudden it's being accessible to everyone. And you know, now with this new CDC guidance that just came out last week. So I think timing is going to be key, but hopefully, you know, here by the end of the summer, things will be looking a lot better.
Thank you, Karin. So we have one more question, and we have 1 minute for the question. Vera Gates Williams.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to thank the panel. I mean, I'm so excited, you know, to be a part of this. And you're right, Karin. I'm in the Sierra Vista, Cochise County area. And with the shortage of jobs, I will tell you what the feedback that we've gotten here was that they were getting paid more on unemployment. So why should they go back? So that will be, I think within the next, by June, that will be remedied and everything. But I'm looking forward to getting some additional information for help down here in the Cochise County. I'm with, excuse me, Visit Southern Arizona, and also I have an entertainment company here. So I'm excited about, always excited. I've never kind of left the, you know, let down when the pandemic, I worked through the pandemic. And so I'm excited to see the tourism come back. So.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you for your
Vera.
participation and your
Yeah.
question.
I can
Elsa?
add to it in case. Thank you again, Vera, and I for logging in from Sierra. I really like to make a point to both of the last questions and the comments from my fellow panelists. I would like to maybe refer everyone back to the Arizona Department of Economic Security. They have information about the Arizona's Back to Work program that was released in this month, May 13, and they cover information about return to work bonuses, education incentives when it comes to retraining or maybe upskill training, and childcare for returning workers. So maybe that's a resource that you would like to take a look. And with that, I just thank you, everyone's comments.
Thank you, Elsa. And thank you, Karin, again, Elsa, Felipe, for this great conversation. It was a great pleasure to have you with us today and educate us about tourism. And I will now pass it to Tara.
Well, thank you so much, Marisol, for really an amazing panel. Thank you to our panel members. As you can tell just from the comments in the chat room, everyone really enjoyed this program and got a lot out of it. Not only was it interesting, but it once again showed, I think the words, Elsa, you mentioned at one point, just how interconnected and interdependent the states of Sonora and Arizona are, and why it is so important for us to not only let everyone else know who's not in this virtual room with us, but also to continue these conversations, sharing the information, sharing cultural awareness. Thank you, Felipe, for that very interesting discussion about how important that is. I'm very interested personally in that program that you have, and I think others are as well. And while I personally cannot wait to see all of you in person and to once again have some of our events in person, there are some things that we've learned from this pandemic that we want to keep. I think that was another comment you made, Felipe, about keeping the things that worked. What we have learned is these virtual programs offer us a way to bring more people into keeping this conversation alive. And so while we will be taking a brief hiatus on these programs over the summer, we will start again in September. Usually the programs are either 1 hour or 90 minutes, as this one was, with 3 more programs for the end of this year. And it is my hope, certainly, that maybe in the spring, we will be able to be back in person in Hermosillo with the community town hall there, and perhaps some of you can join us there. So Marisol, thanks again for putting together such a wonderful panel and your facilitation. Linda, thank you in advance for the notes I know you're taking and the summary of this that you will be putting together for everyone else. And finally, thanks to all of our sponsors and for all of you for being here. Have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you at some of our future programs. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, everyone. Gracias.